kind, Sisk, right? Sisk mechanism. We already talked about that earlier. In the last class, we also talked about the hydrodynamic instability, right? We talked about the hydrodynamic instability in the last class. Okay, and we mentioned that when a zonal mean flow gets disturbed, okay, what it is said to be hydrodynamically unstable. If a small disturbance introduced into the flow grows, okay, spontaneously, drawing energy from the mean flow, okay, then the flow is supposed to be hydrodynamically unstable, all right? And we talked about the turbulence, etc., how they can be generated mechanically, okay, because of the wind shear, and you know about the wind shear. We also talked in the last class about the inertial instability. I'm just trying to review for continuity because we had a long gap last 4 or 5 days. We had a gap, and so I'm just trying to review what we have talked already for continuity. So in the last lecture, we also discussed about the inertial instability, and we mentioned that the inertial instability depends on the sign of this term minus f del m by del y, where f is the Coriolis parameter, m is the momentum. That means rate of change of momentum in the meridional direction, right? And when we add this one with the Coriolis parameter like this term, then this is called the absolute momentum because we are adding the Coriolis parameter here. All right. So depending upon the sign of this term, the flow can be either unstable or stable or neutral. Okay. And we mentioned like last time that just like the thermal instability, when we say del theta by del z, okay, the rate of change of potential temperature with height determines whether the atmosphere is thermally unstable, stable, or neutral. Okay, in the same way, the flow can be inertially stable, neutral, or stable or unstable, depending upon the sign of this term. If this term, product of the F and the absolute momentum is greater than zero, then the flow is supposed to be stable. Okay, when it is equal to zero, then the flow is supposed to be neutral. When it is less than zero, then its flow is supposed to be unstable. So these are the conditions for the inertial instability, right? Similar to the conditions of the thermal instability. Like we said, thermal instability exists if del theta by del z is less than zero, then the atmosphere is thermally unstable. If del theta by del z is equal to zero, then it is neutral. And if del theta by del z is greater than zero, and it is stable. In the same way, in a similar way, the atmosphere can be inertially stable, unstable, or neutral, depending upon the sign of the product of the Coriolis parameter and the absolute momentum. Right? And this stability, as we said, that is purely because of the flow, because of the shear in the flow. Okay, and it also depends upon the latitude because f is involved, right? Coriolis parameter, which is maximum as you go northward or southward, and minimum at the equator, right? So this is about the inertial instability, which we had already discussed last time. Okay, so I'm not going to repeat these things again today, but so far so I've just tried to summarize the discussions which we had in the last class, right? And the next type of instability, we have already discussed these things in the last class. The next type of instability is this we have already discussed in the last class, okay, is the symmetric instability. That is the next type of instability which we had started, but we could not finish last time, okay. So the symmetric instability leads to slant-wise convection. Okay, so it's also called slant-wise convection. The reason is that when the convection occurs in the atmosphere, you know, the vertical currents start, the fluid starts rising up if the fluid is heated from the below, like when the water is heated in a electric kettle, then hot water tries to rise up. And similarly, in the atmosphere, when the air is heated at the ground, then it starts rising up because of the convection. Right? Convection current is generated because of the heating of the ground. Right? But that current is vertical. The convection current, which generates because of the heating, is generally vertical, right? Because it is balanced by the gravity. It is a buoyancy, right? The buoyancy forms or buoyancy occurs when the air is heated. And so the convective currents in a normal situation or a smaller area is in vertical direction. Okay. But when we talk about a large scale, okay, say for example, over several hundred kilometers area or maybe several thousand kilometers area, then in that case, depending upon the location or the region, the Coriolis parameter will start acting. The Coriolis parameter will influence the flow, okay, in that situation. And so, because of the Coriolis parameter and also because of the momentum of the flow, the convection current is not vertical, but it is slantwise. It is slantwise, and therefore, such kind of convection, the slantwise convection, generally occurs in the mid latitude where the Coriolis parameter is also stronger, and the convection occurs over a larger area, right? So here there are two important things which matter in the generation of the instability. One is, of course, the thermal instability, which is because of the heating, right, dry static energy, and other is because of the momentum, right. So such kind of instability is called the symmetric instability. Are you able to hear me clearly? Am I audible and visible to all of you clearly? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good, good. So that's called the symmetric instability. All right. So now let's see more in detail. And as it says, when the fluid motion is on a rotating system like Earth, as the planet Earth, convective motions will be along the direction of effective gravity, because in that case, it is not the Earth's gravity which acts in a vertical direction, but it is the effective gravity which is a resultant because of the rotating force, which is the sum of the gravitational and centrifugal acceleration vector. Okay, the effective gravity is the sum of the gravitational and centrifugal acceleration vector. Now, this is called slantwise convection because the convection is not vertical, it is slanted. In this case, angular momentum is conserved instead of potential temperature, which is conserved during the latent instability or the thermal instability. Right? So this is the slantwise convection. Thus, while the gravitational convection is driven by heat fluxes, the slantwise convection is driven by angular momentum fluxes. Okay, the slantwise convection is driven by angular momentum fluxes. In the atmosphere, convection may be driven either by gravitational mechanism or combined centrifugal and gravitational mechanism, depending upon where it is occurring, whether it is occurring in the tropical area, whether it is occurring in the mid latitudes, right, and what is the value of the angular momentum, right? So the slope of the theta E, that is the equivalent potential temperature. The slope of the theta E surface means the surface where the equivalent potential temperatures are same. That is the theta E surface, isoplanes of theta. The slope of the theta E and the mg, which is the angular momentum surface, can determine the presence or absence of CSI, the conditional symmetric instability. CSI stands for conditionally symmetric instability. Okay, because it is a combined instability due to gravitational force and the force because of the angular momentum. Okay, and in the figure, we illustrate it like that, like this. You can see the figure, right? Is this figure visible to all of you? Yes or
Yes,
no?
sir.
Okay. Now, this figure shows isolines of theta E surfaces and mg surfaces. Okay, angular momentum surfaces. Like all the red lines are the theta E surfaces. 330, 320. Well, not all lines. Some of them are yellow and green also. Okay, but these full lines, they are full lines. All the full lines show the surfaces of theta E, okay, equivalent potential temperature. And the dashed lines are the lines of equal angular momentum, mg surfaces. These dashed lines, 70, 60, 50, 40, etc. They represent the angular momentum lines. So when a parcel is rising up, depending upon where is the position of the parcel with respect to these lines of theta E or mg, it will be either symmetrically stable, unstable, or neutral. Okay, depending upon the position of the parcel with respect to the surfaces of equal angular momentum and equivalent temperature. The parcel of air will be symmetrically stable, unstable, or neutral. For instance, if the position of the parcel is at this intersection points of intersection here, for example, or there, for example, or here, at these points, if the parcel is there at these points, then the parcel will be neutral, symmetrically neutral. Okay. Otherwise, depending upon where it is, it will be either symmetrically unstable or stable, which we shall see in the next slide. Okay. Now, stability of an air parcel to finite displacement of a tube of air. Right. Now, let's consider this diagram. Okay. Now, in this diagram, you have got continuous line shown and the dashed line shown here. Is this line visible to you clearly, dashed and continuous line? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Now this continuous line represents the isoline of, say, S, dry static energy. And the dashed lines are representing the isolines of angular momentum, equal angular momentum, okay? Denoted by M. This is denoted by M and this is denoted by S, okay? Now when a parcel of air, say, is lifted from the surface, okay, this is the surface, Earth's surface, let us say. So when a parcel of air is lifted initially from this point A, let us say, at the surface anyway it is neutral, but if it is lifted upward because of some mechanism, either because of the convection or because of whatever, mechanical lifting or whatever, and brought to this point A, okay, the parcel is lifted from the surface to this point A, okay. Now this point A is below this dashed line. It is below the line of equal angular momentum, right? And this continuous line is the line of equal dry static energy. So this parcel of air is above the continuous line, but below the dashed line, right? So at this position, at this position, this will be unstable or stable. Okay. Whereas when it is further rising and reaching up to the point B, then it becomes neutral. Further lifting of this parcel of air, so let us say when it comes to C, then again it is under the grip of the CSI, conditional symmetric instability. And again, when it reaches here, then this is the neutral point. Okay, so depending upon the location of the parcel with respect to these lines, dash lines, that is the line of equal angular momentum, and the continuous line, the parcel could be symmetrically unstable or stable or neutral. Okay, now the air tube is displaced to this position A, which is below this dash line but above the mg line, continuous line. Okay, it will get a downward and rightward acceleration to return to the initial position. Okay, it will get a downward force and rightward force to bring this parcel of air back to the original position. So that means this is a stable condition. Even if it is brought here, it will come back to the original position. So it is a situation of stable conditional or stable symmetric instability. Okay. Now, if the parcel, as I said, comes here, there is a neutral position. But if it is brought to this point C, which is below the continuous line but above the dash line, okay, at this point, it gets an upward and leftward acceleration. Okay, this parcel will get an upward acceleration and leftward acceleration away from its initial position here. Okay, at this position again, it is neutral. So at this position, it is unstable. At this position, it is stable, and this at this crossing points, it is neutral. Okay. So in summary, the initial position and position D, that means this point here and this point there, D, are the stable equilibria, whereas the position B is an unstable equilibrium. Okay, unstable equilibrium. Same thing is further explained in another diagram here. Okay, in different ways. Now this one shows in the vertical axis the theta e values, the equivalent potential temperature lines. So all these lines, as you can see, these lines are the lines of equal theta e. Okay. Now these lines, these thick lines, are the lines of equal mg, the angular momentum. Okay. Now see the curvature of these lines. Curvature of the lines are changing, are different. For instance, in this zone, say marked by the yellow color, okay, most of the lines or the two lines are coinciding with each other at most of the locations. For example, here both the lines are coinciding. Here both the lines are coinciding. Here, of course, this line is slightly above this line, but again here this line are coinciding. So this zone is the zone of neutral stability. Okay. Now this zone, in this zone, see the lines are curved, kink. Okay, like this one, it's kinking, curving. Okay. So this is the line where the parcel will be symmetrically unstable. Ci. Okay. It is symmetrically unstable. Whereas here, in this pink zone, it will be conditionally unstable, like this one. This is the situation of conditional instability, conditional symmetric instability. Okay. So this is illustrated in a better way in this diagram. The situations where We have the neutral symmetric instability, or conditional symmetric instability, or simply conditional instability. Like in this zone, it is conditionally unstable. Okay. Now, the terminology slantwise convection, when we use that because the convection is not vertical, straight, but it is slanted. Okay, it is not straight upward, but it is slanted. Moist air parcels, which are unstable displacement in a slantwise direction, possesses conditional symmetric instability. Okay. Release of this leads to slantwise convection, which may be observed in frontal rain bands. The cloud heads associated with the explosively deepening mid-latitude cyclones and hurricane eye walls. Okay. A commonly employed explanation for single and multiple banded clouds and precipitation in the extratropics is slantwise convection due to the release of symmetric instability, moist symmetric instability called MSI. Okay, moist symmetric instability. Further, the examples of slantwise convection can be seen in this diagram here more clearly. Now you can see in the right hand side diagram, this is a front. Okay, you can see that this is a front. Okay, a cold front, a warm front. Okay, and as you know, convection occurs at the confluence of the warm and cold fronts. Okay, so the convection, which is supposed to be vertical, will be in a slant direction, will be slightly sloped in this region because of the presence of moist symmetric instability. Okay, and that is because it is our a higher latitude where we have got a lot of theta, I mean lot of F, the Cordillera's force, rotation of the Earth rotational effect is larger. Okay, so the convection, rather than going straight up vertically upwards, it will be slanted in this position, and so the cloud patterns also will look like this. See the clouds, they're not vertical, they are in a slanted position. Okay, so that's why it's called the slantwise convection. Okay, the convection produced by the symmetric instability is called the slantwise convection. Now, another diagram to explain it further on the left hand side, for example. Now, this is a full-fledged, it is a cumulonimbus cloud. Okay, full-fledged cumulonimbus cloud. Right. The surface is warm. Okay, the updrafts, which are part of it is going upwards, vertically upwards. Okay, but then part of the updraft will be in a slanted direction. Slanted direction because of the presence of the symmetric instability. Okay, this is the theta surface denoted by this gray line here. Okay, so the convection in this case, which is along the frontal surface like this here, will be in a slantwise. Okay, this cumulonimbus cloud also is slanted, and is not even just individual one sail, but it consists of a cluster of sails. Okay, cluster of sails. So most of the sail or many of the sails will be slanted, or the motions inside those sails will be in a slopewise direction. Okay, because of the symmetric instability, presence of the conditional symmetric instability. Okay, so that's about the conditional symmetric instability. Okay. Now the next instability which we are going to talk in brief is the barotropic instability, right? Barotropic instability. And all of you know about the barotropic atmosphere, right? Barotropic atmosphere. There are many important characteristics of the barotropic atmosphere. For example, Some of you tell me. For
So
example,
barotropic atmospheres, the density does not vary.
Temperature is a function of the density only.
Yes, it is a function of
Right. And what else? There is no change of wind in the vertical. The wind remains constant. Okay. The isobars and isotherms coincide. That means on a isobaric surface, let us say at 850 millibar surface, temperature will be same everywhere. Okay. So these are some of the characteristics of the barotropic atmosphere. But then what is barotropic instability? Well, again, I'll explain to you only in short here because there is a complex derivation of the barotropic instability, which we are not going to discuss in detail here. But we shall only talk in brief what is barotropic instability. Now, it is a hydrodynamic instability arising from certain distributions of vorticity in a two-dimensional non-divergent flow. This is an inertial instability in that kinetic energy is the only form of energy transferred between the current and the perturbation. Okay. In case of barotropic instability, the kinetic energy is transformed between current and the perturbation. Okay. Barotropic instability is a wave instability associated with the horizontal shear in a jet-like current, like near the jet streams, for example. We have got a lot of wind shear around the jet streams. We have got a lot of strong wind shear because there is a changes of the wind speed in both sides of the jet stream. So there is a strong horizontal wind shear, and in such zones where there is a presence of a strong wind shear, we see the flow is barotropically unstable. Okay, the barotropic instability is a wave instability associated with the horizontal shear in a jet-like current. The barotropic instability grow by extracting kinetic energy from the mean flow field. Okay. However, the baroclinic instability is associated with the vertical shear of the mean flow. In a baroclinic atmosphere, as you know, the temperature or density is a function of both pressure and temperature, right? So, in case of barotropic instability, is purely because of the transfer of energy between current and the perturbation. Okay. Barotropic instability is purely because of the transfer of energy between the current and the perturbation, whereas baroclinic instability is associated with the vertical shear of the mean flow. Because in a baroclinic atmosphere, we have got the variation of wind in the vertical. Okay, the wind varies in the vertical, though the direction may remain same, the speed will change. Okay, or vice versa. So this is an example of the barotropic instability. Okay, in this diagram, what you see is the flow pattern over a part of the mid latitude. Okay, this is the latitude 30 degrees, 60 degree, 90 degree. Okay, most of the middle and high latitudes. And this is the longitude 180 to 180. That means complete globe. Okay, complete globe. You can see the map of India. Here is the map of India. Here. Are you able to see the map of India clearly? This is the map of India. This is visible to you. Yes or no? Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal, Saudi Arabia, Africa. Are you able to see it? This is South America. Okay. Is this map clear to you? Yes or no? Not so clear. It seems everybody is silent. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Sir.
All right. So what you see in this diagram is the flow pattern around the globe. Okay, from minus 180 to plus 180 around the globe, and also this is from 0 to 90. This is from 0 to 90. That means from equator to the pole. Equator to the pole around the globe. Okay, can you visualize these flow patterns? This is a global flow pattern in the northern hemisphere, 0 to 90 degree north. Okay, and you see the vorticity, the lines which you see, these are the vorticity fields. Okay, vorticity fields. After 6 days of simulation, okay, after 6 days of simulation by the model, okay, and you can see the generation of the vorticities, okay, blue and red colored vorticity, right? All the blue colored vorticity, that means this blue, this is blue, and whereas these are red. You see clearly, I'm not sure whether you are able to see the difference in the color. These are the red colors, vorticity in the red colors, and these are the blue colors. Are you able to see the difference in the colors? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Everybody is silent. Yeah, maybe you are watching on the mobile phone where the screen is too small. So that's why I say that you should watch it on the laptop where the screen is bigger. Most of you are watching it on the mobile phone or laptop. Where are you watching
Sir,
this?
I am
Yes, sir.
using laptop.
Okay, good. So those who are using the laptop, you will be able to see the diagrams more clearly. But those who are watching it on the mobile phone, obviously it will not be so clear. That's why I've been insisting that all of you must have the laptop. Have you all got the laptop or not? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Yeah. So if you are watching on the larger screen, bigger screen, then you can see that there are red and blue zones of vorticity. All the blue zones are negative vorticity, and all the red zones are positive vorticity. Positive vorticity is cyclonic or anticyclonic. Can somebody say whether the positive vorticity is cyclonic or anticyclonic? Everybody is silent. You don't remember? Yes or
Cyclonic,
no?
sir.
Yes, correct. Cyclonic.
Sir, in the
Positive,
northern hemisphere it is cyclonic,
correct. Yeah,
and in the southern hemisphere it is anticyclonic.
correct. Yeah. In the northern hemisphere, positive vorticity indicates cyclonic circulation and vice versa in the southern hemisphere. Right? So all these positive areas are cyclonic vorticity and all negative areas are anticyclonic vorticity. Okay. And the instability occurs in the vicinity of these vortices. Okay, these are the vortices. The instability occurs in the vorticity zones, zones of high vorticity. Okay, and this is what is illustrated in both the diagrams. Okay, both of them are of course in the 0 to 90 degree. That means in the northern hemisphere. Okay. The baroclinic instability means baro means pressure and climb means slope. Okay, we try to analyze the word baroclinic. It is basically baro plus climb, which is pressure and slope. So instability arising from the slope pressure contours are generally the baroclinic instability. Okay, baroclinic instability. It gives rise to a large scale and mesoscale motion in the atmosphere and ocean. It produces atmospheric weather systems. The hydrodynamic instability arising due to a meridional temperature gradient and hence vertical shear of the mean flow and a thermal wind in an atmosphere in quasi-geostrophic equilibrium and possessing static stability. Right? So, in a baroclinic atmosphere, as you know, there is a horizontal temperature gradient. One of the characteristic features of the baroclinic atmosphere, where there is a horizontal or meridional temperature gradient. Okay. As a result, there is a thermal wind. There is the presence of thermal wind in the baroclinic atmosphere. And also, we have wind shear. The wind changes with height, varies with height. Okay, so we have got a vertical wind shear. Okay, so baroclinic instability arises due to a meridional temperature gradient, which results in vertical shear of the mean flow and a thermal wind in an atmosphere in quasi-geostrophic equilibrium. You know geostrophic equilibrium, right? Geostrophic motion. All of you know, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So quasi, when you say quasi-geostrophic, do you know what is quasi-geostrophic? Quasi-geostrophic. This word quasi-geostrophic. Have you heard of this word? Quasi-geostrophic? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what is quasi-geostrophic?
Sir, it is the approximation of like for small Rabi numbers.
Okay, I mean, well, the word indicates literally quasi, that means not fully, it is semi,
Yes, sir.
right?
Sir, it is like inertial forces are too small than the Coriolis and pressure gradient force.
Okay, when the two forces are in balance, that is geostrophic, but in this case, it is not, right? The geostrophic and Coriolis force in a quasi-geostrophic motion may not be in balance, which are in balance only in the geostrophic case. If the flow is purely geostrophic, then the two forces are in balance, right? Coriolis force and the precipitating force. But in quasi-geostrophic, they need not be in balance, and that is the case in the real atmosphere. In the real atmosphere, that is the case. Okay. So it is a hydrodynamic instability arising due to the meridional temperature gradient in an atmosphere in quasi-geostrophic equilibrium and possesses static stability. Okay. The baroclinic instability depends on vertical shear and tends to occur in the region of the polar frontal zone. Okay, generally, it is observed more frequently in the polar latitude, higher latitudes. Right? It grows by converting potential energy associated with the mean horizontal temperature gradient that must exist to provide thermal wind balance for the vertical shear in the basic state flow. Okay. It grows by converting the potential energy. Have you heard about the available potential energy, right? APE, available potential energy, or CAPE, CAPE, right? CAPE. CAPE is what is the full form of CAPE? What is the full form of CAPE? Have you heard about that, right? Yes or no? CAPE. Everybody is silent.
Convection available potential energy.
Yeah, exactly. Convective available potential energy, CAPE. But when there is no C, this is APE, 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 simply available potential energy. And that is purely because of the flow pattern. There is no convection. But the instability is because of the flow pattern, available potential energy. Okay. So the flow in a baroclinic instability zone grows by converting potential energy associated with the mean horizontal temperature gradient that must exist to provide thermal wind balance for the vertical shear in the basic state flow. Okay. All atmospheric dynamics. Okay. You'll have to read maybe a few times to be able to understand the concept. Okay. You'll have to read it by yourself. The baroclinic instability is associated with the mean flow in which del Q by del Y is greater than 0 and del U by del Z is greater than 0 at the ground. Okay. Hence, a mean meridional temperature gradient at the ground is essential for the existence of such instability. For the existence of the baroclinic instability, it is important that, or it is essential that, there must be a mean meridional temperature gradient at the ground. Okay. Then only baroclinic instability can exist. Okay. And when such condition exists, then the flow will grow, or the disturbance, atmospheric disturbance will grow by converting potential energy associated with the mean horizontal temperature gradient that must exist to provide thermal wind balance, because there is a thermal wind in the baroclinic atmosphere, okay, which supports the presence of the vertical wind shear in the basic state flow. Okay. Slightly, strange words for many of you maybe, but if you read a few times, then things will be clear to you. Okay, maybe some of you may be hearing for the first time, like Shyam Sundar. Have you heard about all these terminologies? Shyam, are you there? Yes or no? Are you there, Shyam? He's not responding, so I'm not sure whether Shyam is still there or is disconnected. Is Shyam there?
No, sir.
No, he has already disconnected. I see Sri Lakshmi is there. She came late, it seems. So, Shyam Sundar may be unfamiliar with this terminology, but remaining of you who have studied the dynamic meteorology should be familiar with these terminologies. Right? Like the presence of the meridional temperature gradient, okay, the vertical wind shear, the available potential energy, the conversion or converting the potential energy associated with the mean horizontal temperature gradient, which actually results in the thermal wind. The thermal wind occurs because of the presence of the horizontal temperature gradient that you must have studied in your dynamic meteorology class, right? And due to that, the vertical wind shear occurs, right? So all these are the features, special features for the baroclinic instability, all right? And these are some of the illustrations of the baroclinic instability, which is responsible for the development of mid-latitude weather systems like extratropical cyclones, etc. Okay, extratropical cyclones. And what you see here in this diagram is a global distribution of theta E. Okay, global distribution of theta E. And depending upon the wavelength, you can see these are all having a wavy pattern, and they got a finite wavelength. Depending upon the wavelength, the flow can be stable or unstable. Okay, the flow can be stable or unstable, either inertially or barotropically or baroclinically. All right, and it will have a time scale also. Time scale. So the study shows that the most unstable scale is having the wavelength of about 4,000 kilometers. 4,000 kilometers. Wavelength is most unstable, and it has a time scale of about 4 days. time scale of the instability is about 4 days. Okay. Then we have got another type of instability called Kelvin-Helmholtz instability. I think it's already 442, right? So I'm going to stop this class for today. Is that okay? 442. We shall continue the class in the next. I will continue this subject in the next class. Is it okay for all of you? See, 7 of you are there. Am I
Yes,
audible?
sir.
Yeah. So now the point is, as I said, today is my last working day in the university. So from tomorrow onwards, I will try to finish at least 2 topics. This instability topics which I have started, I will try to complete this instability in the next class. And after that, maybe 3 more classes I will try to take to complete the model hierarchy. Right? Simple, intermediate, and complex models. Try to finish in the next 3-4 classes. All right. And as per your timetable, if I open the timetable in front of you, let me see your timetable tomorrow. Do you know what time you have class tomorrow? See your timetable.
1:30, sir.
Tomorrow's class Friday, right? Tomorrow's class Friday is between 12:30 to 1:30, right? Is this screen visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Are you? Yeah.
Yes,
So we have
sir.
a class tomorrow between 12:30 and then 1:30. Okay. And then tomorrow also I have a meeting, but I don't know what time. So depending upon the time of the meeting, I'll try to avoid the time 12:30 to 1:30. So that we can have the class tomorrow. And then on Saturday, we have class at 11:30 to 12:30. So we'll try to have these 2 classes and maybe 1 or 2 more classes in the next week to complete up to that point which I already mentioned to you. Okay. That means up to at least the model hierarchy up to here. Okay. So for today, I'm going to stop the class. And as I said that you have to read yourself more